Hi, I'm Jesse Hilbert.
Hi, I'm Charlie Herbert.
And welcome
to Arthropod
Adventures.
Episode 3,
Season 3,
Episode 13.
The Crustacean of America. Today's arthropod can be found off the coast of your favorite New England state and maybe even on your dinner plate. It's a little rhyming action for you. What do we always say, Can?
You guess what it is?
Today's episode brings us to the world of the American lobster, Charlie. Now, we have not done many crustaceans here in Arthropod Adventures. A couple of crabs and the roly-poly, which, of course, is a wonderful crustacean, right? Yeah. So I did think it was time for us to add in a few more. And being from New England, what state do we live in, Char? Do you know what state we live in? Connecticut. Ooh, yes, Connecticut. Oof. We gotta work on your geography, huh? Yeah. So being from New England, this creature is one that everybody here knows and everybody raves about as you see it on their dinner plate. Now, personally, I've never been the biggest fan of lobster, food-wise. I've always preferred crabs. But I will say that if you ever find yourself in the great state of Maine, you'll want to head over to Eventide in Portland. It is a fantastic restaurant with the best lobster roll that I have ever eaten. Charlie, Mama, and I ate there once, and even I loved that lobster roll. It was fantastic. Now, Charlie, do you know those animals that you look at the grocery store all the time in a little tank of water?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's our arthropod today. Yes.
What do they call it again?
Homarus americanus.
I'm not called those.
That's its scientific name. Try it. Homarus americanus. Yes. Their common name is the American lobster. That's what it's called. Does that sound better? Yeah. Now, the etymology of this word took me back to a few origins. It comes from the French word for lobster, homard. Again, my French pronunciation is terrible. Which also then came from the Middle French, which I guess is the French that came before our present-day French. And that apparently has a Scandinavian origin, humar, which is an Old Norse word. So we can trace this one pretty far back. And its species, Americanus, lets us know that this lobster is found in America. That's where we live, right, Chuck? So the scientific name literally means American lobster. I always think it's as funny, Charlie, when the common name and the scientific name match. Whew, you ready to get into this? I got a lot of information here, okay? This lobster can be found along the Atlantic coast of the North America, all the way up from Canada, down through New England, and even into North Carolina. They can be found in shallow waters, and they can even be found in depths of up to 300 plus meters, which puts them into the twilight and sunlight zone. That's just some added information in there, as while I've been writing this episode, my third graders, Charlie, they just got done researching about layers of the ocean. Yeah. So if anyone's listening from my school, layers of the ocean, there you go. But you won't find them swimming out in the open seas, at least not as an adult, Charlie. They go down to the ocean floor. This is where they thrive, where cold water meets the rocky bottom. It gives them the habitat they will need as an adult to survive and grow. We're taking a brief break from the show to share some excitingness. I know it's not a real word, but excitingness about a brand that we are working with called Dead Bird Ecowear. And it's more than just a clothing brand. Dead Bird Ecowear is a movement committed to restoring the earth. And as a proud veteran-owned business, they dedicate a portion of every purchase to global tree planting initiatives. Wear the change you want to be and wear the change you want to see, and make a positive impact with every outfit. Plus, listeners of Arthropod Adventures can use the code in all caps, arthropod_adventures_podcast for 25% off their purchase. So join us in supporting sustainability and our veterans. Shop Dead Bird EcoWare. All right, so lobsters are decapods,
Lobsters
Charlie.
are decapods.
Yes, deca.
Yes.
You're going to repeat everything I say now? We're going to be at this episode for a very long time if you do that.
Uh-huh.
So deca means 10, and pod means foot. So its name means 10 feet, which is fitting because this has 10 legs or appendages, and, well, maybe a little bit more, but we'll get into that. But 10 main ones, and there are estimated to be upwards of 15,000 decapods in the world, Charlie. But before we get to legs, let me start at the beginning. Lobsters are bilateral. You want to try that one? Lateral. That means, and I learned this from an article titled The American Lobster, for which I could not find the author, but you can find it on our
Instagram
show notes. Yes. Charlie, bilateral means that if we cut this animal in half, that each half would be identical, including the internal organs, which is incredible. Nature is marvelous, isn't it? We love nature here, huh?
Yeah.
Now, Charlie, like their arthropod family members, spiders, the crustacean called a lobster.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, they have a cephalothorax and an abdomen. Now, I will say that learning about the anatomy of the lobster was very refreshing, and I learned a lot about this crustacean. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration put out a great resource titled The American Lobster. So, the article is called The American Lobster, The Biology of Homarus americanus, and it gave great valuable insight into the lobster's segmented body. The cephalothorax contains how many segments, Charlie? 14. And it is here that we find their 10 legs that make them the decapod. Just like we've seen in so many arthropods, these legs are specialized. The first pair makes up those, do you know what they call those things at the beginning of a lobster? Ooh, they call them that, yeah.
Pinchies.
Pinchies, I love that. Sometimes we call them claws too.
Yeah.
But I like pinchies, that's a good one. And these are the things that do the real damage. Or if you've ever been to the grocery store before, those are the parts that they put the rubber bands on.
Have you heard the crab song? Ding, ding.
The crab, yes, that crab song is great. I'm so glad your cousin showed that to you.
Ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding.
Now, Charlie, one claw on this lobster is bigger than the other one. The big one is called the crusher. Want to try that? Crusher.
Crusher.
No, like this. Crusher.
Crusher.
Yeah, and it's used to crush things. And the second smaller claw is called the pincer or ripper, and it's used to tear that meat away from whatever it's eating. Now, both of these claws are broken up into different pieces. The larger part of each claw is the propotus. Want to try that one?
Propotus.
Yes. And this is the immovable or the fixed part of the claw. And the smaller, more movable part is called the dactylus.
Dactylus.
Good job. Now, Charlie, the next 4 pairs of legs are called... Yep. They're called the... What am I doing with my fingers? I'm trying to help you out.
Crawling?
Not crawling. Walking.
Oh.
They're called the walking legs or periopods. And even here, they are specialized. The first 2 pairs have small pinchers. Not as big as the claws, but little pinchers. And the last 2 pairs have just simply come to a point to help with walking legs. What?
And spiders are great.
Spiders are great. I always love to tell people that. Now, the abdomen, Charlie, is what most people call the tail. And how many segments are on that one? Look here.
6
or
7.
Yeah, I saw it in both, and this happens sometimes in my
6 or
research.
7.
So it's either 6 or 7. Some people counted the end of the tail, some people didn't. But on the underside of this abdomen or tail are the pleopods or swimmerets. And they're like, kind of like legs, but not really legs, that help them swim. This whole back tail thing is exactly what helps, this tail fan is exactly what helps the lobster move around the ocean floor. Now, Charlie, that's where it gets really fun. The inside of the lobster is just as interesting as the outside. To best explain their stomach, and I'm not going to explain all the inside parts, but the stomach I thought was worth noting. It came from the American Lobster article, and that I found that it was put out by the Pictou Antigonish Regional Library in Canada. Ooh, a little alarm. And I don't know. And I quote here. I'm going to quote them, Charlie, because they did a good job. The digestive system of the American lobster consists of 3 stomachs: the foregut, midgut, and hindgut. The first stomach, or the foregut, try that.
Foregut.
Yep, contains a gastric mill, a set of grinding teeth that can grind food into fine particles. The particles then pass into the midgut gland, where the particles are further digested. The midgut glands are actually the tomali. This is the yummy green stuff that so many people love to eat.
Tamale?
I remember Grandpa eating it when I was little.
A tamale.
Yeah, not like a tamale. Tamales are also delicious. Material that is too large to be absorbed is eventually passed into the hindgut and then through the enlarged rectum, the butt, and out the anus. That's where the stuff comes out at the tip of the lobster's tail. End quote. Now, like a lot of underwater creatures, lobsters breathe using gills. What number, Charlie? How many pairs of gills do they have?
20.
20 pairs. Now, Charlie, do you know what 20 plus 20 is? What's 20 plus 20? You don't have to whisper it.
30?
Nope.
40?
Yeah. 40. 20 plus 20 is 40. So they have 40 gills, 20 pairs, and water passes back and forth across them to help them breathe. Now, we often think of lobsters as red, Charlie. If I gave you a picture, and I think this would happen to most children, if I gave you a picture of the color of a lobster, what color would you make it?
Red.
Probably red. But, in fact, most American lobsters are greenish blue or brownish in color. And there are some variants that can be found that are pretty rare. Now, I did find these variants on Wikipedia, but I love the statistical part of them, so I will share them with you. 1 in 2 million are blue. Oh, yeah.
1
In
in 10
million.
million are red.
Good.
1 is
Well, 30
30
million
million are yellow
or
orange.
Good.
1
in
in
50
million
million
are
split
two
colors. So there's 2 different colors.
and 1 in 100
Million
million
are
are
white.
white.
Yeah.
Of
Now, of course, these are all estimates, but it's fun to think about, isn't it? Charlie, you did a great job reading that. Give me a high five.
numbers.
Yeah. I'll help you. You can read me numbers. Now, they grow to some truly impressive sizes, even though we only think about lobsters that we get on our plate as being like 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds, and maybe like 10 inches or so. But the record for body length is about, what number is that?
25
Inches.
inches.
And the record for weight is about
44.
44 to 45 pounds. So that's a large lobster. I did that one already. Now, the life cycle and survival rate of this lobster is wild. I feel like I say that word a lot, but it is wild. And there was one stat I read that really stood out, and it was that of
10,000
1,000
eggs,
only
a bird,
about
10 will
make
it to
adulthood.
the food.
Adulthood. That means not very many lobsters get to be adults. And females are only ready to mate once they are freshly molted, meaning that they have shed their exoskeleton for a new one. Now let's get to the mating. When she has done this, when she's ready to mate, she will let off these pheromones near a male's home, and it tells the male that she's ready to mate. And in a display of what I will call a fit of joy about the possibility of mating, the male charges her with his claws in the air, maybe waving them around like he just don't care. No, probably not that part, but that's what he does. And if she is not game, she will swim away. But if she is game and she's willing to accept, she will place her claws upon his head. Now, once they have...
His head goes into the body.
Yeah. Now, once they have mated, the female will carry around his genetic material until she is ready to lay her eggs. And this can last up to
15
months.
months.
Now, she will carry...
Eggs.
Yeah, so she will carry her eggs on the underside of her abdomen, in that tail, of which I read this is called being in berry, which I assume is because it looks like she's carrying a lot of berries. Now, her age will determine the amount of eggs that she will carry. When the eggs are ready, the female will know, she just knows, and she will release them into the open ocean. This is called the planktonic stage. And it will see these freshly hatched lobsters swimming in open ocean, but they're pretty small, and they stay pretty out there. And after a few weeks, the exact time frame depends on the conditions in the ocean, they enter the benthic stage. It is now that they will find shelter on the ocean floor. I wrote forest, but we're not talking about the forest. We're talking about the ocean. And also eat whatever food passes into whatever protective home they have found. And they will continue to grow and will eventually have to leave their home to find food. But hopefully they are successful as they are now larger and better able to defend themselves. Now, lobsters are really opportunistic hunters. While they prefer live food, they will also eat anything they can get their claws on. Their main food source is often seen as mollusks like mussels and clams. They have also been observed eating other crustaceans like crabs, ocean worms, and in some cases I read even plants, which is surprising. The American lobster also has the ability of reflex amputation, Charlie. Now, you're going to get this today. Do you remember the salamander that we saw in the backyard? Do you remember what was with it, with its tail? Its tail looked like it was missing, right? And there's a little nub growing back. The lobster can do the same thing. The lobster can drop some of their body parts if they need to. This is helpful when fleeing from potential predators. And even for them, is better for them is that they will eventually grow these back. Now, the biggest predator of the lobster, Charlie, is us, humans. Did you know that? Have you ever tried? You tried lobster, you know. You loved it when you were little. You weren't even 2 years old. You were at Uncle Paul's, and you loved lobster. Or no, wait. Nope. I take that back. That was not lobster. That was snow crab. Yeah. Oh. Now, according to the Atlantic State Marine Fisheries Commission, we are catching lobsters to the tune of millions of pounds, Charlie, that's a big number,
2022.
Yeah. We apparently caught about 120 million pounds of lobsters, which is crazy to think about and really makes you think about overfishing of lobsters or really overfishing of anything. I could honestly go on for much longer about capturing and the history of consuming these creatures, but I'll end it here and perhaps finish it another day in a different episode, because this episode is going to be a little bit longer than our normal ones.
Yeah,
because there's a lot to talk about. So the next time you find yourself in the grocery store looking into the lobster tank, think about the incredible life journey of the American lobster, a truly American, amazing crustacean.
Yeah, American.
We say thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, right, Charlie?
Yeah.
If you have an arthropod you would love to hear about, want to tell us what you think about the show, or found one of our mistakes, send us an email at arthropodadventurespodcast@gmail.com. And you can find us on Instagram at arthropod_adventures_podcast and follow us there. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Never stop learning. Show your show notes and never stop learning.
Stay inquisitive.
And never stop learning.
And always check out the show notes. You're right.